G'day folks and welcome back to Birko. I'm Jesse. Behind me here's my V-dub. I'll insert a couple of pics now. And today we're fixing my mistake. That's right, last night, New Year's Eve, just before midnight, I fitted a new fuel pump to my V-dub engine. Now, issue there, I didn't grease it. Apparently I should have put a good blob of grease in it and everything would have been fine. So I'm going to rip that off quickly. I'll probably speed it up a little bit, but we'll jam a bit of grease in there and get on to the next bit of the project, which is fitting the new intake manifold. Once that's on, I'll try to get the fan shroud and generator back on and we'll see how we go. No worries. So today we're going to need two 13mm spanners. We may need a 13mm socket, 10mm socket, ratchet, Phillips head and flat blade screwdriver, some silicon gasket maker, and a good sized blob of grease. Rightio. So first off, just in there you can see that little cavity, and the little plunger pushes on that. That should have had grease. So what we'll do, just get a little blob of grease, jam him in there, push it down so it goes down the sides of that paddle. So it's all nice and greased up in there. It's not going to fall down into the engine. There is a seal there, well, a bit of a gasket. So we get a nice amount of grease, not going to go everywhere. Refit. Rightio folks, as with many YouTubers working on their project cars, I am not a mechanic. I do not claim to be. I just like working on old cars. Because they're a lot better to work on than modern stuff. So, that is my mistake finished, sorted. No more issue. A little tweak up, remembering to take it down evenly. Not too tight, they are a stud going into a magnesium casing. And that's finished. Righto, next thing for the intake manifold. Now, I've had to buy a new manifold. The old manifold had issues with its heat risers. These bring exhaust gases up and under the center of the intake manifold below the carby. And that is so that it doesn't freeze up. It's a very small pipe for a reasonable amount of air and fuel to be running through it, decent velocity, so it does get very cold. I found my issue driving at night time on humid nights. It would get very cold indeed and freeze up and the car would get spluttery and carry on. So 120 bucks later, I believe, and a whole lot of paint. It's ready to go. Now I've been advised to put a little bit of gasket maker on here, not too much. The idea is put it on so it makes a seal. There is, you definitely don't want air leaks. And yeah, well, I'll finger tighten it down just to nip it up, hold it in place, and I'll leave it at probably 20 minutes, half an hour. We'll come back and tighten it back up, and then we should be right to put the fan shroud and generator on. Righto, so first things first, I might grab my rags, I'm not damaging everything. And we'll get just a little bit of gasket maker, remove the rags I've had looking it up, making sure that edge is nice and clean. No big lumps of anything there to surprise us. Okay, First bit could be contaminated, ditch that. Second bit, don't use too much, don't get excited with this stuff, it goes everywhere and it will push down into your intake port if you're not careful. So we want a very, very fine smear. Remembering that Volkswagens were designed to be built quickly and easily by rather low trained workers, so nothing's too difficult to work on. Everything's fairly basic, they have fairly large tolerances on most things, which is great for me. So there we have it, a little light smear of gasket maker on one side. Just clean up that inner edge so it... Now clean fingers again and we'll start on the other side. For the fun part, we have, this is held on by 4 10mm nuts, no washers I believe, which is interesting, but it's later once the engine and the exhaust are installed, it also holds via the heat riser flanges. So as with most things that you need to fill with gasket goo, there is no gasket. What I'll do, I've got a couple of rags in the intake port because I've done a fair bit of work on the motor. I didn't want to get any dirt or grit in there. I'll hyperlapse this bit and give it a quick vacuum out just to make sure nothing's fallen down in there as I pull the rag out. Rightio, that didn't take long. So, heat risers go towards the rear of the engine. The side you're seeing is the front. Drop it down. Right, let him off a little. Doesn't seem to want to go. Right, tricky one sorted. I think these need a little snug out. It's had its 15-20 minutes to set or start to cure. And there's one intake manifold on. Right, next step is generator and fan shroud. It's going to start looking a little bit more complete. So, now you've just got to be careful not to destroy your oil cooler while fitting. If that goes there. And the metal tabs should sit inside of the lower fan shrouds going over your barrels. Yeah, mate. Rightio, 2 10mm to hold are in, and now generator clamp. Make sure it goes around the rear of this filler bracket slash base. Righto folks, that'll be enough for today. Next video we'll be doing the carby and possibly refitting the engine, but see how we go and I'll keep you updated. So please like, share, subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. Cheers.